I've lost 50,000 view Snapchats. I've lost 100K Instagrams. I've done it all. But the starting over is so important. Here's the thing I want people to understand.
Welcome back to On the Horizon. This is Melrose Michaels. I am your host, and I'm here to share what's worked for me in building my adult creator business to try to make building yours just a little bit easier. Let's get into today's episode.
In the vibrant tapestry of the internet, spicy creators are the bold strokes of color that captivate and command attention. It's crucial that you know that you are about to embark on a journey that is exhilarating as it is challenging. In spaces like ours, where creativity meets courage, it demands a lot more than any typical business would. It demands that you are equipped with corporation-sized skill sets, yet have the capacity to remain an artist. My hope is that you let today's episode serve as a guide, offering insights and advice from veterans in the landscape. Now, I'd like to take this opportunity while I have you all here listening to publicly thank at Juicy Booty Mandy on Twitter for their feedback on our free courses over on our YouTube channel. They said, "I can't even begin to tell you how useful these courses have been for me and my brand. Highly recommend." Super appreciate the feedback. All of your guys' comments and testimonials and the things you say to us is the reason we keep doing and putting out this kind of content. So any feedback and encouragement, we love to hear it. Also, if there's stuff that you guys want to make in terms of suggestions on things you need or would be useful to you, please never hesitate to shoot that our way as well. So almost a week ago now, we put out a tweet on SWCEO that asked, "Sex workers, what advice would you give to new baby spicy creators entering this business?" And the responses were really phenomenal. I don't often speak to topics like these just because being a veteran with 12 years in the industry, I don't spend a lot of time thinking about what it's like to be a new creator anymore. Like in the present moment within the sex work industry, I don't really take a lot of time to reflect on that or what it was like for me in the beginning versus how things are now. So when I posted this tweet, it brought up a lot of not only just good advice, but also good topics that I think are worth touching and indulging in. So today, my plan is to kind of go through each piece of advice that was given by other members of the CEO squad, and then add any additional value from my own experiences if they should be relevant. So, that being said, let me jump in to some of the tweets that we received and kind of give some of my reflections. So, the first tweet that came in on this as advice that they would give their younger selves jumping into, adult content creation is the advice that educating yourself is key. Everyone is not, this is what this tweet reads. This tweet comes from at the Superior H. And what it says is educating self is key. Everyone is not your friend. This is the internet. Find yourself a solid group. Your vibe brings your tribe. Use your, I think it says, discernment on info received in newly not safe for work sites. Have fun. Focus, discipline, consistency, authenticity is how you win. So there's a lot of great gems in this single tweet alone. I do agree entirely with a lot of what's being said here. Educating yourself is key. I mean, that Sex Work CEO is a testament to everything I've learned along the way in this industry, and that's why we put out the content we do, and that's why we think this is almost the most impactful path we can have in terms of giving back to the industry that gave us everything we have. So whenever anyone speaks about education, of course that's key. That's always been something I've believed in. That's always been something that's resonated with me and guided me. And then I love the fact that they touch on find yourself a solid group. I think support in this space is so fundamental. There's a lot of things going on right now. We've lost a lot of adult stars and creators recently. We have adult performers that are in critical condition. And not to say that that has anything to do with a support system, but in serious moments like life altering events or, hospitalizations or just even internal struggles or addiction or the challenges of just running a business, because that alone is so hard. Having a solid group of people around you that will support you, that will show up for you, that's so important to your well-being as a human and also to the success of your business, because you have to have outlets that you can lean on. You have to have people that will give you honest feedback. And all of those things, ultimately, they stem from the group that you have around yourself. So I think that's also fundamental. I love the advice about using discernment on info you've received and new not safe for work platforms or websites. This is huge. I'm sure all of you listening, like myself, have a bunch of, DMs each week from a new platform that's popping up that wants you to be a brand ambassador or wants you to join or wants you to use their affiliate program to onboard all your creator friends. I get those too. My inbox is filled with them. But there's so much power in brand, and I think we all know that because whether you like OnlyFans or not, they have the most brand power in the space. They're the most trusted by fans because they're the biggest household name. And when you have things like that, when you have household names, strong brands, think Pornhub, think Brazzers, think Kink, think, name whatever brand comes to mind. When you have brand power, you have customer trust, and those things go hand in hand. So when you get these new sites, while as a business owner myself, I admire anyone entering the space, anyone trying to do good things, anyone trying to build something new and useful to this community. But at the same time, you do have to use discernment to know whether they have a chance at winning or whether they're worth investing your time in or whether they have the precautions in place to actually protect you or serve you as a creator. Because I'm very careful about which platforms, especially new platforms, I will invest my time in or my resources in. Those are the platforms that I tell you guys here about in terms of the CEO squad. I don't pitch we decline so much of the outreach that we get from brands and companies because I don't believe that they're going to win, or I wouldn't be on them myself. So with that, using your discernment as these kind of DMs approach you or these people approach you, that's really important. Having fun, yes, I think that's pertinent. Like when this stops becoming fun to you, you're going to hate it because it'll only be work. Not to say that it won't be work while it's fun. I think you have to separate those two things out. You can have fun and have the work, and that will function because any business needs the work. The work will need doing, regardless of whether you enjoy it or not. But there has to be an element to this industry or this business that you enjoy. Usually, that's the content creation process, which is also simultaneously a lot of work, but it's that creativity, it's the creating beautiful images, creating beautiful, you know, content that typically is why we love this space. And maybe it's something else. Maybe it's the engaging with the fans. Maybe it's the conversations. Maybe it's that part that you love. Whatever it is, you have to have the fun that coincides with the work because once you only have the work, it becomes very unsustainable very quickly. The focus, the discipline, you guys know I love the word discipline. You know I love the word consistency. And authenticity is how you win. I agree with that statement 100%. Although I would say for myself and my own experience, authenticity online is something I've struggled a lot with. I'm pulled to really be a perfectionist and really want to be liked and really, have these human flaws in terms of myself that make it difficult for me to be authentic online because I feel very exposed and vulnerable that way. So that's something I'm even working on.
If you're enjoying this podcast episode so far, please take one moment to share it with another one of your adult content creator friends, because you know what the rule is here. We do not gatekeep, and we want to make as many adult creators' businesses as easy as possible. And you sharing this episode with them might do exactly that. Thanks so much in advance.
The next one that comes here is from @boyhouse, BOYHOUS, and it says, know what you're getting into, do the homework first. If you're ever going to post yourself naked online or on cam, it's going to be there forever. It will never go away, ever. If you cannot deal with that, do not enter the adult industry. I think this one is a big one. This is the first and I would say the biggest question I asked myself before I ever got on cam back in 2011 was like, once I do this, this is here. Like, this is not ever going away. This is permanent. This is a decision I cannot undo. And I have to go into this knowing that. And I would agree. Any new creator coming to the space also needs to really reconcile this with themselves before they decide to proceed. There's this great saying that is, you can't be half pregnant the same way you can't half do porn. You either are or you aren't. And you really have to understand and kind of work through that on your own terms and what that means to you before you enter the space. That's a really good one. The next tweet that came in was from Alex Harper Model. And it says, this was like a list of 5 things. And this one, if I feel like resonates more with mainstream porn or on-set porn, but I'm going to read through this list and I'll give you my take. The first one says, one, always pee after sex. This one's for the ladies. Two, birth control. Their suggestion that they are on is Nexplanon, 5 years. I'm not sure about that brand. I've never heard of it personally. Three, pro studios require 2 weeks full panel STI tests. Cutting edge testing, talent testing services, and clear. Number four says sponges when you're on your period during scenes, latex free triangle makeup sponges. And then number five, read contracts. So some of these I'm just not going to be familiar with in terms of because I don't do mainstream. Always pee after sex. Great, just genuine advice if you're a female. Nothing to do with porn, but if you're having sex on camera, also still good advice. Birth control. I don't co-sign any kind of birth control. If you're on birth control and that works for you, great. If you're not and you're better off that way, also great. That's totally personal decision. I had a great experience with the birth control that I was on for many, many years. And then all of a sudden, no longer was a fit for me and it was doing me a lot of harm, even though, nothing had changed except myself. So the birth control, that's a totally personal decision. You got to do what's best for you. Number three, the pro studios requiring 2 week full panels and testing. Of course, of course, of course. Anyone who's in mainstream or considering mainstream needs to know that if you are collaborating on content, even not mainstream, if you're just collaborating on trade content with another creator, you need to be getting tested and you'll have your 2 weeks full panel of STI tests. If you're working on studio, it's probably needing to go through the clear or pass systems. And I know that we have Empower, who usually or was listening earlier, at least in this space. Empower ATL is who I actually do my own testing through. We recommended them in the past. They make it super easy, and I can't recommend them enough. So that again applies to if you're doing mainstream studio work, or if you're just doing collabs with other adult creators for OnlyFans or whatever your fan site or clip site is. Sponges when you're in your period during scenes, again, personal choice. You could just choose not to shoot if you are regular and you can work around that. But this number five one is the one I want to really focus on. This read contracts. Oh, I cannot stress this enough. Read your contracts, read your agreements, read your consent checklists, read your everything. It is so important as a creator to read anything that you are putting your name on or initialing or signing. I cannot tell you how many bad contracts I have caught from people that I even trust coming across my desk or across my email. It is, I think, like the saying that comes to mind, and I learned this from a friend, it was advice his dad had given him, was that people aren't against you, that they're just for themselves. And I think that's a really good piece of advice, is that the world's not out to get you. People aren't against you, but they are for themselves. So keeping that in mind whenever you're approached with a business decision, a contract, any kind of thing you're trying to come to terms or come to an agreement on, that's a really good thing to just keep in mind. They might not be trying to screw you over, but they are going to be for themselves. They are going to do what's in their best interest. So you need to look out for these things. And you need to read through every piece of, every document that you're going to sign. For me, I know I've mentioned it many times in the past. I always go and run my documents through Corey Silverstein, my adult attorney. He has the myadult.law resource as well. But Corey reviews all my contracts, and it's worth every penny because if I had not had his eye and him taking a look to look out for me in my own best interest, I would have lost a lot more money than whatever it cost me to hire him to take a look at it. So I know lawyers can be expensive. I know that everyone's coming from a different place in terms of resources, but you have to have a second set of eyes. You have to have someone that you can trust or someone that at least has your interest in mind and no one else's to take a peek at these things. But if you can afford to have someone go through your contracts, please take the time to do it. It's always worth it. It is never not worth the risk. The next tweet that came through, this is from @GoddessArrowX. And their piece of advice was, don't do anything you're not comfortable with. Be aware of who you surround yourself with in this industry. Everyone's journey 2 years in is not going to look the same as yours 2 months in. Stay vigilant, keep going, and it will happen for you as long as you work hard and believe it will. I love this tweet so much. That first piece of advice, don't do anything you're not comfortable with. This time's 1,000. I remember when I first got into camming, it almost seemed like in those first few months, it was a constant test of my boundaries. It was a constant, will you do this? No. Will you do this for this much money? No. And it was just this constant pushing and pushing. And I think that's why over time I really come, I guess, to terms with this idea that I'm not necessarily sure that everyone should be allowed to do adult as early as 18. I understand we're all, legally adults at 18, but the reality is, like, our brains don't really fully form. I think it's till like 25, age 25. But I would never recommend someone getting into adult until they're at least 21, just because your boundaries change so much. Who you are is still changing so much. How you view the world is still changing so much. The lens that I had at, you know, 20 when I got into adult versus the lens I have now, my boundaries then and now, they've all changed so much. I'm very lucky, I would say, and blessed to have come into the industry already having a fairly strong sense of self and sense of my integrity and sense of my boundaries, just because I was always someone who really knew what I did and didn't want. But I don't think that applies to everyone. I think that's very unique to myself. So making sure that you're not going to do anything you're not comfortable with. If there's even a slight lingering in your head where you're like, oh, I don't really know, or if you're not like, I guess if it's not a fuck yes, then it should probably be a no. If the thing you're being asked to do or someone wants you to do in terms of content isn't like, fuck yeah, I want to try that, or fuck yeah, that's like right up my alley, or fuck yeah, that sounds so much fun, like it should probably be a no. The second piece of what they say, be aware of who you surround yourself with. Yes, like we kind of already touched on this. Your support system is going to matter a lot. There's a lot of times in business where you can just feel very alone, and that is amplified by being in a business like sex work or the adult performer industry. I love this part particularly because this is something I think everyone, as a creator especially, often forgets. Someone's journey 2 years in is not going to look like you're 2 months in. So this is one of the things that it comes up a lot for me. I get a lot of creators who are struggling, and they'll, DM me or tweet at me or email me even, and they're asking why they're having such a hard time. And it just takes a few clicks for me to like get to their Twitter, get to their Instagram, and see that their page was only started earlier this year, only started just last year. And the comparison is just, it's so blatantly obvious to me because I've been doing it so long. But you're comparing your, 1 year into this space to my 12 years into this space. Like those are vastly different arenas almost. And it's not because I'm so good after 12 years, it's just that I've been doing it longer. So I've accumulated a lot bigger of a base of fans that will show up for me, of people that I can count on consistently to spend or to purchase. Like all of these things take time to develop, and that applies to any kind of business. So it's really important that you can't compare your year to year comparison with someone because it's never going to be the same. And we also don't all have the same paths. So even comparing my 12 years in to someone else's 12 years in will look vastly different depending on the choices each of us made, the paths we, gravitated towards, the niches we decided to be in, the companies we decided to work with. All of these things change your outcomes. So it's really hard not to compare yourself to other creators, and especially when you're thinking about how long someone's been in the space. But your journey is going to be entirely your own. So you have to just focus on that and not focus on what everyone else seems to be doing or where they seem to be succeeding, because we're all posting highlight reels at the end of the day anyways. I love that they left it with this, uplifting and like inspiring piece of advice of staying vigilant and keep going. It will happen for you as long as you work hard and believe it will. I agree. I think that there's somebody out there in terms of fans for all of us. Like we, you're not everyone's cup of tea, but you're someone's cup of whiskey. And I think that you'll find and attract those people the longer you're in the space. So it's just a matter of time. You only need a handful of people that really want to support you. And once you meet those people and foster those relationships, you're pretty much set. It's just a matter of time. Now we have one from at your new dad XXX, and they said, set aside time away from content creation. Build a backlog and schedule time away from the business. Use that time to maintain relationships, family, your wellness, your peace. Use that time for non commodified intimacy. Oh man, I felt personally attacked when I read this. I am terrible at this. I do have a backlog. Yes. I do schedule things. Yes. But this last, it was a week ago now, when I went to Lisbon for a conference for this industry, And then I booked a week away in Paris, which I've never been to, for my first vacation since 2016. It's the first vacation I've taken since 2016. I don't know how many years that is, but that's a long time ago. And that's a long time to not have a vacation, considering this is a 7 days a week, 365 days a year type of job. Not just as a creator, but also running the other businesses I do. So when I read this, I was just like, oh man, they see me. They see me, and I feel like I'm under attack. I agree with everything that's being said in this tweet. You know, setting time aside from content creation is as important as setting time aside specifically for content creation. And I love the way that they stated non-commodified intimacy. I really had to think about what that meant. I love that they said it in this way, as if it's something you're not selling access to, while prioritizing something so innately important to human nature. So this was great advice. You know, using time offline to maintain relationships, family, wellness, your peace. This is something I would say I struggle with. I think most creators who follow our stuff that we put out, because the creators in our, the CEO squad, as I would, I guess, define it, is pretty much like business savvy, entrepreneurial adult creators. Like that's who we're speaking to when we put out this content. We're not speaking to the creators that don't want to do the work. We're not speaking to the creators that are in these other lanes. We're really speaking to creators that I identify with, like the entrepreneurial leaning creators. And in that same vein, we're typically the type of people that never want to stop working. We're the workaholics of the world. We're the perfectionists of the world. We're the hustlers of the world that subscribe to this super dangerous at times, rise and grind or hustle culture that can really be negative and has negative impacts. And I've experienced it. I know a lot of my friends who I would say are like-minded have also experienced it. So this piece of advice to a new creator that's just getting in, oh man, this is just invaluable. The next one that came in was from @Mia Jocelyn with 2 N's, and it says, be self-driven and willing to continuously learn. Strategies that once worked will no longer work. Platforms can go under or cease to exist, and rules are constantly changing. Diversify your income into trusted platforms and join a community for your specific niche or platform to brainstorm ideas with others. This is a fantastic one because it touches on some of the things that we really try to stress here at SWCEO. Strategies that once worked will no longer work. This is a great ode to the video we just put out on YouTube recently about guaranteed gains. That's a technique of advertising on OnlyFans that used to work really, really well when it first came out, but it no longer does. People have gamed the system, fans are immune to it. It just doesn't have the same effect or impact that it once did. And if you are stuck in the things that once worked for you, you'll tend to still continue to want to lean on them, even though they've proven that they no longer serve you. There's so much of that going on. A lot of the creators that come to me for help, those are the patterns I often find that they're in, is that they're still doing the things that worked that 1 or 2 times or that year. And once they stopped working, they just wouldn't abandon them because they had worked once, they had rewarded them once. So this is where I really want to stress, like, as creators and as entrepreneurs, it's so important to stay in this like scientifically almost surgical place of mind where you test and you view results and you let data drive all of your decisions. Because the moment you stop, you're only making your decisions off of how you feel. And how you feel is often wrong, and it's going to lie to you. And we're humans and we're flawed. So at the end of the day, relying on the data and the experiments and the testing is always going to be more beneficial. So again, to what they said, things that once worked may no longer work. Platforms can go under, cease to exist. We all know this. We've been deplatformed before. We've all experienced this. And the rules are constantly changing. I think this is such an homage to the struggles we all face on social media and how important it is to navigate them as effectively as we can. Diversifying your income across platforms, absolutely. Like, we are all aware of this. At least if you're a new creator, maybe you're not aware of this. I guess that's a good point that this is advice for new creators. If you aren't diversified in multiple platforms and one goes down, you're left with nothing. And it's funny because In mainstream business advice, the whole rule is one offer, one avatar, one channel. So, like, you sell one type of thing to one type of person in one place. And that is really good general business advice because your focus and your attention is on one path. But in our industry, we cannot only focus on one platform or one path because we've been shown time and time again that those paths are not secure. They're not stable. They can, we can wake up and one day those aren't available to us. So having one thing to offer, selling to one type of customer, but we have to sell it on as many places as possible. Otherwise, we could wake up one day and our entire income could be gone. So I think the diversity piece is really, really important. If you're new or if you're considering getting into adult, I think that should be emphasized really a lot. The next one was from at Goddess Arrow X, and it says also research, research, research. You are never too educated on any subject, but especially not in sex work. Always be learning and evolving. I think this is a huge one. And I think this is why podcasts, like all the sex work podcasts that are out there now, are so important. I love the Old Pros podcast. If you're not following them, listen. Anything done by Jesse Sage or old podcasts or current podcasts, listen. Like there are so many good educational or fundamental sex work podcasts that I think really need to be focused on. And I'm not saying, you can also listen to the other more popularized ones that are more fan facing if you want. But I just think podcasts are such a great source of, stream of consciousness type of information. But there's also other resources. There's YouTube videos, there's blog posts, there's entire, private communities that can educate you. And I agree, you're never too educated on any topic in any realm. And I think the moment you think that you are, you've done yourself a really great disservice. The next one comes from at Nova Starlust, and it says, learn about protecting your privacy. Read the terms of service and contracts. Don't rely on what you see online or what others say is okay. Always, always fill out the 2257 and model releases properly and double check before your co-performers leave the filming. Make sure to come into an agreement in writing about pricing, sales pricing, who gets the rights, or what happens if one of you wants something taken down. Learn from pro-doms or experienced lifestyle kinky people how to vet a coworker and negotiate scenes, even if just for vanilla sex. This can mitigate a lot of issues around expectations, what's okay, what's not okay, what to do if you need to stop, how to communicate if someone tests positive in a window of your collab, what sort of aftercare you need after a scene, etc. Schedule days off to care for yourself, pay your taxes. You need to claim gifts you receive through payment apps or you will get audited. And again, don't believe everything you see online. Consult professionals in the field if you have questions about it. Organize your content often and early on. It will save you time and money. This one is just packed with good stuff. I think that we touch a little bit generally on, protecting your privacy, making sure that you have things in place. We just did a video not long ago on removing metadata from your content. All of those things are important. Making sure that, you're using encrypted services, making sure that where you're saving and storing content is safe, making sure that the people you come into contact with in the industry or you collab with are keeping your information private and safe. All of those things are hugely important. Terms of service and contracts, absolutely. I mean, we know all about the importance of these. How to fill out 2257s is extremely important. And I love that they really touch on this other piece because this isn't often talked about. And that is making sure you come to an agreement in writing about pricing, sale pricing, who gets the rights to the content, and what happens if someone wants something taken down. Those are key points that are almost never discussed for content collabs, for creators that are just, producing their own stuff for their own fan sites or clip stores. Those things are often never discussed. And I've seen it happen, and I've had it happen where like I collab and I make an awesome scene with someone and we never discuss pricing. So I'm at fault for this. I've done this. And then I go and I get tagged on it in OnlyFans because obviously you have to be tagged so that they can post the content, right? And then I see that they're posting it for a price point that I would have never sold that content for. Maybe it's, way lower or way higher than I would have ever sold it for. Either way, that comes into play in terms of how now I can sell the content, because if they can get it from this other creator much cheaper, they're more likely to go buy it from this other creator. And when I go to post the content, obviously I have to tag them. So the fan will have a path to easily find the content through that creator at a much cheaper price point. So that was a hard lesson I had to learn, is like discussing these difficult conversations around finances, almost around money and how we want to price things, or how the lowest price, what the lowest price should look like when we want to sale price something. These are super important. And also what happens if one of you wants something taken down. There are policies in mainstream porn, like you don't have a right to it. Like once you've done the scene, you're paid for the scene. You don't have the rights over the scene. The company does, and it will go on and be there forever, most likely. But when you're discussing this with other creators or you're doing collabs, you guys can make different decisions about this. You can make the decision that if something should happen to me, or I leave the industry, I want all my content taken down. Would you agree to that? And then you guys can kind of work that out amongst yourselves. Or maybe that's the opposite of what you want. Say that if something happens to you or you leave the industry, you absolutely do not want your content taken down. Would they agree to that? So, like, making sure that you work on those kind of key points and touch on them is really important for collabs. And then I love all the other things that they talked about just for in terms of communication, aftercare, super important. Taking time for yourself, we already discussed that a little bit. Paying your taxes, this is a huge one if you're new in the industry. I have the most fucked up story of taxes when I came into adult, because I came in through the webcam space. I was doing adult webcamming on MFC when I first started my career, and I was getting paper checks in the mail biweekly. So because I was coming from, working in 9 to 5 kind of corporate job, me getting checks every 2 weeks in the mail, I thought that taxes were being withholded. I didn't know any better. I was still kind of a kid. So at the end of the year, when it came time to do my taxes, I owed like $30,000 in back taxes that I hadn't saved for, that I wasn't prepared for, because I didn't know that I wasn't being withholded from. So making sure that you sort out your tax situation, or at least you're aware of what your tax situation is going to be as a 1099 self-employed person before going into adult, is so important. I cannot tell you for how many years that first year of income in adult derailed my financial life, because every year that I couldn't afford to pay my back taxes, it compounded, and I got fines and what do you call it, penalties for every year that I still held and carried over that debt. So making sure you get the tax situation straightened out from the get-go, so important. This is a fantastic one from Nova Starlist. This is from @ZivaFay. Find someone to confide in the industry, whether it's a friend, mentor, cohort, or just someone else that does something similar to you that you can cross-reference with. This is huge, and I hope that our community here, in terms of the CEO squad, benefits some of you guys in this way, where you have at least other people that are in the CEO squad that you see interacting and engaging with our stuff, that are actually creators, that you can also just DM and ask for a reference, or ask for a cosign on something, or ask if something seems legit. Like, this community that we're trying to build, we want you guys to also be able to rely on each other and cross-check things with each other and know that you're in a safe place with each other. So that's a huge one that I think is fundamentally important as well. Next one that I love seeing in here is Shanasti, I think it's pronounced, and it says build up your social media platforms with real, authentic followers. Do not buy them. This one is huge, and I want to talk about this idea of social media for a minute as well. So the social media platforms with real followers, I think this is huge. As adult creators, one of the things that happens to us quite frequently is we lose all of our platforms, right? We lose our Instagrams, we lose our Twitters at times, we lose these really important advertising components to our business. And we get so freaking frustrated, rightfully so, because deplatforming is real and it's majorly impactful on our businesses. But here's the caveat to that. And I don't think I've talked about this much, and I think it's really important. I know a lot of creators want to give up on making a new Instagram, making a new Twitter, starting over. This starting over thing is so frustrating. Believe me, I've been there. I've lost it. I've lost 50,000 view Snapchats. I've lost 100K Instagrams. I've done it all. But the starting over is so important. And here's why. I can tell you from present day experience right now that my 300 whatever K verified Instagram will drive less traffic and less subscribers to my OnlyFans as my brand new 100-follower Instagram does that I haven't even posted to yet. Here's the thing I want people to understand. There is a beauty in starting these pages over because you're starting fresh, no shadow ban, no association to adult. Those new accounts will drive better, more qualified traffic to these pages. What these big agencies are doing is that they are starting 10 Instagrams for a creator. One will be, I'll use my name as an example. So one will be Melrose Gaming, one will be Melrose Cosplay, one will be Melrose Reacts, one will be Melrose Advice, one will be whatever. And they'll build these pages with this kind of content all in their own niches. And then they'll all drive it back to a main account to grow the main creator's account. What this does is all of those fresh accounts in their own niches, they serve as burner accounts. So if one of those goes down, it's not the end of the world because it's not the creator's main account. But they just pop up a new one, use the same content, usually that's already gone viral somewhere else along the way, and then you rebuild them really quickly because every new account that you make has completely like no restraints on it. You have visibility, you have exposure. Instagram's pushing that account to followers because what does Instagram want, for example? It wants every new user on the platform to be enticed to stay online using the platform. And in order for that to happen, a new account needs followers. It needs to get the photo liked. It needs to have someone watching your story. It needs to entice you to stay on Instagram and use the platform. So these new fresh accounts, they are actually very useful. They are actually very effective. They are just fucking annoying to have to do and to have to deal with. So social platforms, real authentic followers, that is absolutely the key. There is a way now on Instagram to clear spam followers. I've been doing it over and over for my account. You'll see my Instagram account losing followers day after day because I'm clearing out all the bots that follow. I advise you do that too. The better engagement you get, the better overall the page will do. But don't ever be afraid to just start over with a new account. Have 5 Instagram accounts. Like, you can do that and it can be very effective. And I don't want you to feel discouraged just because of a deletion. I mean, I know it's discouraging. I know that's easier said than done, but I really want to emphasize that it doesn't have to be the end of the world when you lose an account. So that all being said, there's another one on here I want to touch on by at Miss A091295. It says create your own style and people will appreciate your unique touch. Also, patient is a very important skill to have. Good things take time. These are all true things, all hugely important things. Having your own unique touch, I love the way that that's phrased. Everyone's superpower is that they're themselves, that you're uniquely you and you do things your own way. And I think that is very important that you don't lose that along the way when you're looking at what's working for other people. You know, you can look at an Amaranth who kills it with gaming in cosplay. You can look at other creators who kill it in like mainstream hardcore porn. You can look at other creators who are non-nude and somehow doing really, really well. And it seems like they're doing the impossible. But all of them, if they're doing what's unique and authentic to them, that's probably why it's doing well. So you have to just focus on what's unique and authentic to you, and then that will start to do well. And I know it sounds super cliche and it sounds super like woo woo, whatever, but when you're doing something that's authentic, it attracts people to you. And that's in anything in life. If you're very authentically yourself, you attract people like a magnet. And that applies in our work. And I think that translates when you have really good content to support it. This is the last one I'm going to touch on. There's so many good ones from this thread. Reading through these has been super, super just like enlightening to me. But this is the last one I want to touch on for today because I don't want to keep you guys too long. But this is from at Janina, I hope it's Janina or Gianna TV. And it says, stand your boundaries, do what works for you. If you don't like it, you don't have to shoot it. If you don't like the vibes, you don't have to stay. And if you don't like them in real life, don't trust them in business either. The end. I love this one so much. Vibes are real. Like, I don't know how else to say that. Vibes are super real. That's in business, that's in life, that's in relationships, that's in everything. If I go into a room for a business meeting and the vibe is off, I'm probably not going to do business. I'll finish the meeting, I'll, be cordial and polite, and I will hear everyone out. But there's definitely a frequency that I'm trying to operate from, and I need that to be met in the people I'm doing business with. And I think that does speak a lot to boundaries, just generally. Like we mentioned earlier in the space, if whatever you're being asked to do or whatever you're being asked to film or to shoot, if it's not a fuck yeah, it probably should be a no. Not to say that boundaries can't change. So this is a really complex and I guess intricate conversation to have. So I believe so strongly in setting boundaries. I also believe strongly that you are bound by your boundaries. So I have two views on this subject. You should set boundaries that you're comfortable with, and you should make sure people respect them. 1,000%, absolutely agree with that. I do that in my own life. At the same time, boundaries can define where you kind of begin and end on certain things. And I think it's important that you explore things should you be inclined and feel safe exploring them, to try to push your boundaries or try to get outside your comfort zone or try to, see if something might be for you. But again, that could only happen in a situation where you're safe, where you actually want to do it, where you feel comfortable, or where you're curious. So all of those things is a very complex, almost, intricately woven conversation, but only you are going to know what's best for you. Only you are going to know what you're curious about or what you're pulled or drawn to. So, knowing all of those things and having all of those pieces in mind, you need to be able to clearly articulate, yes, you want to do something, or no, you don't. And I think it takes a lot of self reflection and self awareness and almost digging deep into who you are and who you want to be and where you want to take your career to decide those things for yourself. But you ultimately do need to decide those things for yourself. And that piece about if you don't trust them in real life, don't trust them in business either. Yeah, 100% cosign. I have done a lot of business. I've tried to put together deals that have fallen apart. I've had the wool pulled over my eyes. I've misread a room before. I've done all of those things, and one of the biggest lessons is like I said, if the vibe feels off, there is an intuition to what I believe in and to how I try to move in the world. I don't always trust my intuition. I prefer to trust data. I prefer to make things not, decisions not based on emotion. But if I have a strong pull intuitively to not move forward or to think that this person might not be the right person to do business with, I ultimately do always side on that side of things, because I think there is a degree of the human experience that is felt and not necessarily communicated through words. Maybe that's, a little rah rah or woo woo for some of you guys listening, but that's my experience and that's how I've typically operated in terms of business, at least up until this far. So, in an effort to kind of start to wrap some of this up, I hope that this was a useful and valuable space for you guys. I do apologize. I am super sick. I had a fever all last night, but my only goal for today was to make sure I showed up for myself in this space and did this for our community. I hope that you guys got something out of it. And I guess that being said, I do want to bring your attention to the fact that we are putting out new content over on our YouTube channel. So, if you're not subscribed to our YouTube, please take an opportunity to do so. It is youtube.com/SWCEO. Make sure your notifications are on so you never miss a new course. In our recent video, we unpacked Guaranteed Gains promo, the good, the bad, the downright ugly. For the allure of quick gains to the reality of attracting low-quality followers, I share an unfiltered truth and alternative strategies to grow your OnlyFans community authentically. So if you want to check that out, head over and watch it. Huge thank you to everyone who's subscribed to SWCEO's Telegram bot. If you haven't already heard, we released a Telegram bot that essentially sends you your daily content inspiration and all of the captions you need for your feed, PPV-locked messages, clip stores, etc. The ideas are researched to be trendy and highly desirable for what your fans are currently seeking, and the captions are optimized with calls to action so that you increase your earning and unlock potential with each one. The Telegram bot pushes your daily dose of inspiration to your phone every day at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, so you no longer have to waste your time researching, planning, or coming up with content ideas or captions. The bot will take care of all of it. If you're not an active Telegram user, or you'd prefer PDF downloadable versions of the content inspo and captions, you can get that over on SWCEO.com/shop. We recently launched our store website with PDF downloads of the same content and captions featured in our Telegram bot. But we also have additional downloads available there as well, like unlocking sales scripts, sales objection scripts, to help you close the deal with fans and PPVs. And if you want to get a taste of what we offer without spending a dime, there are completely free PDF downloads waiting for you there as well. Now, I want to take this last opportunity to draw your attention and remind you all listening about SWR Data, my other company, in case you're not yet familiar. SWR Data is on a mission to survey adult creators like you. We want your feedback to hear about the challenges you face and how the adult industry can better serve your needs. Our goal is to collect your experiences, opinions, observations about the current state of the adult industry, and then we'll use this data to advocate for necessary changes to make it a better place for us, the creators. The reality is, a lot of people in power have never been creators, and they simply don't have the lens to know what our needs are. SWR Data is that lens. However, I can't do it alone, and I genuinely need your help. So for that reason, we're inviting any creator who's willing to participate in our qualifying survey, which helps us understand your expertise as an adult creator. By taking the survey, you can start participating in paid future surveys. Our ultimate aim here at CEO Squad is to have additional income through surveys alone, so that your experience is heard and that you know it's valuable. And we think it's about time you get paid for it. This is a collective effort, so if you're interested in participating and getting paid for future surveys, comment to let us know you're interested, and we will DM you the qualifying survey link so you can join us in this mission. Most importantly, I want to emphasize that all of the information on SWCEO we put out for free because we believe in this idea that the more financially successful creators are, the more resources we'll have as a community to do things like lobby Congress, impact policy, organize, and more. So if you found value in the content you heard here today or the tweets that you've engaged with, please consider sharing it to make this journey easier for your own adult creator friends. Our only ask is that you retweet and share our stuff to as many people as humanly possible. Thank you so much in advance. Thank you guys again for tuning in, and I will see you all 1 week from now.
It would be absolutely incredible if you rated this podcast 5 stars and left a little review. We want to get this podcast to as many adult creators as possible, and you taking a second to leave a couple stars and a review really helps us do that. Thanks so much.